Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, 1 second. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to Chat Plus. We are now in the 4th chapter of the first canto. We have made some great progress. So I'd like to congratulate all of you for sticking around for 3 chapters. Now we are into the 4th chapter. So who do we have today in recitation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we have Pushpa Mataji doing English and Usha Mataji Sanskrit. Thank you.
Fantastic. Over to you then, Pushpa Mataji. And who did you say, Mataji? Pushpa
Hare
Mataji
Krishna, Usha Mataji, yes.
and Usha Mataji. Please go ahead.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Is it chapter 4, verse 16?
Sorry, which verse to which verse are we covering?
No, sorry, Prabhuji, just chapter 4.
1 to 16.
That's right, yes.
Vyasa Uvacha Iti Brahmanam Sanstutyai Muninam Dirghasastrinam Vriddha Kulapatihi Sutam Brahucha Shaunako Bravit.
Hare Krishna Pushpa Mataji, are you ready to recite the English?
Yes, certainly. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so just 1 second. Chapter 4, text 1, yeah? On hearing Suta Goswami speak, thus Sanuka Muni, who was the elderly learned leader of all the rishis engaged in the prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Suta Goswami by addressing him as follows.
Verse 2. Saunaka Uvacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yahada Bhagavachukaha.
Saunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Sukadeva Goswami.
Verse 3. Kasmin yuge pravriteyam sthane vakena hetuna kritah sangoditah krishnah krutavana sahintam.
In what period and at what place was this first begun? And why was this taken up? From where did Krishna, Dvaipanya, Vyas, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature?
Verse 4.
Okay, Mataji, I'm going to mute everybody. You can unmute yourself. Looks like somebody is unmuted
We
here.
are responsible taking care of you and guide you properly in your life.
Okay, you can unmute yourself and start again. Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Verse 4. Tasya putro mahayogi samadrak vikalpakaha ekantam eti rudrino gudo muda iveyate.
His, Vyasadeva's son, was a great devotee, an equibalanced monist, whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person.
Verse 5. Drashtva anuyantam anuyantamapayagnan devayo hiyaparidanu sutasya chitram tadikshya purchati muno jagatastevasti Sri Pumbidhanatu stutasya vivekate drashtihi.
While Sri Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vasudeva himself was not naked, but they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them, made no distinction between male and female, but the sage made such distinctions.
Next, verse 6. Kathamalakshitah paurehi sampraptah kurujangalan unmatmuka kavidvicharan gaja sahyavaye.
How was he, Srila Sukadeva, the son of Vyasa, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapur, now Delhi, after wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jangala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded?
Verse 7. Katham va pandave yasya rajarse munina saha samvadah samaputata yatre sa saswati srutihi.
How did it so happen that King Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas, Bhagavatam, to be sung to him?
Verse 8. Sa godohana matram hi gruhe sugruhame dinam avekshate mahabhagasta tirthakurvastadasramam.
He, Sukadev Goswami, was accustomed to stay at the door of a householder only long enough for a cow to be milked, and he did this just to sanctify the residence.
Verse 9. Abhimanyu sutam sutta prahur bhagavato tamam tasya janma maharcharya karmani cha gruhininiha.
It is said that Maharaj Parikshit is a great first-class devotee of the Lord, and that his birth and activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him.
Verse 10. Sa samrat kasyavahetuho pandunama navardhanaha Prayo pravisto gangayam anatyadhirashtashriyama.
He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast till death?
Verse 11. Namante yat padake niketmadnaha sivaya hani yadhanani satravaha katham sa viraha shriyamang dustai chamyuvetosta atrosto mahosma sahasubhihi.
He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed insuperable kingly opulences. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life?
Verse 12. Sivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaye ya uttama loka parayana janaha jivanti natma sarmaso parasrayam mumocha nirvijya kuta kalevaram.
Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though the emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was shelter for others?
Verse 13. Tat sarvanaha samachakshva pushto yadi kinchana manye tvam visaye vacham snatam anyatra chandasat.
We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you.
Verse 14. Sutta uvacha dvapare samanuprapte trutiye yuga paryaye jatah parasharadyogi vasavyam kalaya hare.
Sutta Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parasara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu.
Verse 15. Sakadachit sarasvatya upasrasparushya jalam suchihi vivikta ek ashina udite ravimandale.
Once upon a time, he, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in the waters of the Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate.
Text 16. Paravaragyah sarushihi kala navyaktarahasa yuga dharma vyatikaram praptam bhuvi yuge yuge.
The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to unseen forces in the course of time. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept my apologies for any mistakes.
And mine too, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji's beautiful recitation. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So today we are discussing a text 12. Before that, we will just read the text 11. He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed kingly opulences that were difficult to give up. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life? Text 12. Shivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaye ya uttama parayaya na jana jivanti natmartham ashoparashrayam mumokacha nirvidyakuta kalevaram. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Those who are devoted to the cause of personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. I'll read that line once again. I don't know why only I get these verses. Must be some divine Krishna's arrangement. Those who are devoted to the cause of personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interests. So even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was a shelter for others? Purport. Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king and householder because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. A devotee of the Lord automatically has all good qualifications, and the emperor was a typical example of this. Personally, he had no attachment for all the worldly opulences in his possession, but since he was a king for all around welfare of his citizens, he was always busy in the welfare work of the public, not only for this life but also for the next. He would not allow slaughterhouses or killing of cows. He was not a foolish and a partial administrator who would arrange for the protection of one living being and allow another to be killed. Because he was a devotee of the Lord, he knew perfectly well how to conduct his administration for everyone's happiness. Men, animals, plants, and all living creatures. He was not selfishly interested. Selfishness is either self-centered or self-extended. He was neither. His interest was to please the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead. The king is the representative of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the king's interest must be identical with that of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord wants all living entities to be obedient to him and thereby become happy. Therefore, the king's interest is to guide all subjects back to kingdom of God. Hence, the activities of citizens should be so coordinated that they can at the end go back home, back to Godhead. Under the administration of representative king, the kingdom is full of opulence, and at that time, human beings need not eat animals. There are ample food grains, milk, fruit, vegetables, so that the human beings as well as the animals can eat sumptuously and to their heart's content. If all living beings are satisfied with food and shelter and obey the prescribed rules, there cannot be any disturbance between one living being and the another. Emperor Parikshit was a worthy king, and therefore all were happy during his reign. What a beautiful word. Okay, so I'll read the translation one more time. Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was a shelter for others? Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to establish one point, when I mentioned that I don't know why I get these verses, what I meant was I really like this whole idea of Bhagavatam in the sense, and Bhagavad Gita. So many places the Shastras or Acharyas, they are trying to tell us that don't be happy and satisfied just by performing your own bhajan. please try to think of the welfare of others. Please try to do good to others. And doing good to others is what? Save pumse paro dharmo yado bhakti yadok sache ahitu ki apriyata yayatma supasidati. That real dharma is the one where one can awaken the love for Vasudev, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, and it is completely unmotivated and uninterrupted, and that's the way one can perform devotional service to the Lord. And here again, the similar hint is given in Bhagavatam text 12 of the fourth chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, and these are series of verses which are being given where Parikshit Maharaj is being glorified, and the sages in the Naimisharanya headed by Saunaka Rishi are asking the questions that how is it he was ready to give up his body, and they were so happy, and at the same time there was a sense of astonishment to when they learned that, oh my God, all the other kings would come to him and with heart they would give whatever they have earned as their share. And it's not that he had to go and fight with them to get his share. They would voluntarily come up and give his share. That was the kind of king he was. So that was only happening because all the living entities, including the other kings, they were naturally attracted towards Parikshit Maharaj as a king, because he was the emperor of the world, but at the same time he was a devotee of the Lord. That is the most fundamental principle of the point to be noted here, is that all these qualities which were manifesting in Parikshit Maharaj was mainly due to one reason of him being a Krishna conscious king. Because he was Krishna conscious, he was able to rule a kingdom which was perfect, in the sense there was nobody who was hungry, there was nobody who was thirsty, there was no one who did not have a roof on the head, and there was no one who was actually lamenting. People were very, very happy. As Prabhupada concludes the purport, everything was peaceful at when he was ruling. So let's look at some of the very nice key points from this purport of Srila Prabhupada and see what Srila Prabhupada is trying to tell us in this beautiful purport. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here we see at the beginning, Srila Prabhupada points out that Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king and a householder because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. So a lot of times we see that we are trying to become a devotee of the Lord, but we are at the same time trying to do so many other things. But here the only qualification of being a good human being is to become a devotee of the Lord. The so-called things, like when I was growing up, I used to hear these arguments when I was new to practicing Krishna consciousness. Oh, well, even that person is nice. He had never hurt anyone's atma. Like in Hindi mein we say, right? Usne kisi ki atma ko kabhi dukh nahi diya. The point is the atma can never be dukhi. The only reason the atma is dukhi is because it's under the modes of material nature. So, but a lot of people in India say, oh, he is a very pious person. And look at him, how sweetly he speaks. But Srimad Bhagavatam, right at the outset in the first canto, second chapter, is condemning this attitude of so-called being nice. There is this beautiful verse in Bhagavatam, which is, I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit right now. Maybe somebody can help me. It ends with the line Shrama eva hi kevalam. Na utpadet yati ratim Shrama eva hi kevalam. The beginning two lines, I'm forgetting of the verse, the first two lines of the verse. But the point or the essence of the verse is that in the process of living our life and performing our so-called activities, if we do not develop priti for Vasudev or love for Krishna, then all our efforts are simply waste of time. They have no significance whatsoever. Whereas on the other hand, if one is engaged in the process of cultivating Krishna consciousness, his other endeavors may not be perfect, but his life in itself becomes very perfect purely because of the fact that this person is trying to be engaged in devotional service. And this is very strongly pointed out here in this purport and the verse. And we see this has been also further confirmed in another beautiful verse of Bhagavatam, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana, Sarve Gunastatra Samsate Sura, Harva Abhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna, Manorathena Sati Dhavato Bahi. And the translation of this beautiful verse from the 5th canto is, one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. However, he has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no good qualification because he's engaged by mental concoction in material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. What an illuminating verse. Just think about it. Like, I mean, where else will you find such a verse which is clearly giving us an indication that there is no point in laboring hard trying to find our ways to cultivate so-called activities of being peaceful, being tolerant. Of course, these are good things to cultivate, but not on the pretext of leaving Krishna consciousness on the other side. But instead, if we take to Krishna consciousness and do our best, even if our endeavor is not perfect, Krishna is telling, yet such a person is, he never, Krishna is saying, declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. If you make that attempt, if you declare that, yes, no mass, I sign on a piece of paper today that I do not really, I want to keep a limited interaction with material energy which is needed for me to function in the world, but I want to dedicate my time, energy and effort in the service of Hari, Guru, Vaishnavas, then definitely there is some hope for us to rise to the platform, and then these qualities will naturally start to manifest in us as long as we are sthita dhara, like we are extremely determined to follow this process, right? Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction, Updesha Amrita says, Utsaha Nishyad Dharya Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat. He's saying, have utsahan, enthusiasm. It's the most prominent quality, or I wouldn't say quality, yeah, in a sense quality which is required in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. Then he's saying dharyat, you got to have utsahan, nishyat, determination. Nishyat means avashya Krishna rakshamam. Krishna will definitely protect me. He will definitely protect my devotional service. He's definitely going to help me progress in Krishna consciousness. So as long as we have that kind of determination, as long as we are enthusiastic and yet we are patient. Why do we have to be patient? Because just imagine, do you think that all these various activities we have been performing for so many lives, all the various conditioning we have had, so many desires we have cultivated, do you think it is that easy to give up? Ladies and gentlemen, it's not that easy. However, there is a hope, and that hope is Krishna consciousness. Somehow or other, if we stick to the process and follow, chant 16 rounds, follow the regulative principles, hear the Bhagavatam, take association of devotees, live in Vrindavan or at least in the consciousness of Vrindavan or Dham, then we can definitely try to perfect our life in this very life and go back to the spiritual world. And this is the duty of a civilized citizen, even though we may not have a king. But if you think about it, we do have a king. And our king is Srila Prabhupada, who set that standard for us in the Kali Yuga, not so long ago. Only 50 years ago, he departed after working so hard. We just have to follow the king. He lived his life no less than Parikshit Maharaj. If you think about it very carefully, of course, Parikshit Maharaj is a Mahabhagavat, and so is our Srila Prabhupada. He surrendered to the instructions of his spiritual master in the way Parikshit Maharaj surrendered to the instruction which he received in the form of a curse from Shringi. He wholeheartedly accepted. And so did Srila Prabhupada in the place called Ulta Danga, which is a beautiful place in Calcutta, in which unfortunately I have not had a privilege, but in the February retreat, which we are about to launch soon this week, I have added, hopefully we will try to go to that place called Ulta Danga, Krishna willing, and see Prabhupada's birthplace. It's such a significant place. My Guru Maharaj was explaining when he went, you go up the stairs and you can feel the energy. You can see, okay, this is where Prabhupada met with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This is where he received the orders from his spiritual master. It's such a potent place, actually, because if you go to the place, then you get the mercy of Prabhupada, because he was there, he got the instruction, and you can feel the energy. So Prabhupada got that instruction and he took it to the heart. And it was only a matter of some time where Prabhupada started to execute, but he was constantly harboring that instruction in his heart. How can I do? How can I do? How can I do? And he wrote to his spiritual master in so many occasions that please help me, please help me. So in that sense, in the sense of desire to work for the welfare of all the worlds, there is a beautiful comparison here between Srila Prabhupada and Parikshit Maharaj. Again, devotees, take a moment to reflect. Look at the life of Parikshit Maharaj. Look at the life of his divine grace. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. All these acharyas, you can see so many similarities. And why there are similarities? Because they are connected in equality, in a sense of the line with the disciplic succession so strongly, because they're trying to follow their guru, and their guru is trying to follow his guru, and his guru is trying to follow his guru, all the way to Lord Krishna. And that is the reason why Prabhupada said, we may not be the pure devotee, but if we follow the pure devotee, then one day we may become a pure devotee. So in conclusion, this is the most important point in this verse. I wanted to try and bring it to my attention and to share with everyone, is that determination, trying to follow the instructions of the spiritual master and dedicating our life on the instructions of spiritual master will naturally help strengthen our Krishna consciousness, and that will naturally drive various other qualities in our heart. Because what happens when you hear Bhagavatam? Shushuro dhanasya Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. The Sayan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Shravana Nishevana. That when you Shushro Shraddha Dhanasya, when you serve those devotees who are completely free from all vices, great service is performed. And by serving such Vaishnavas, one gains the affinity to hear the message of Vasudeva. That's what takes place when we serve the devotees. And serving means following the instructions of the spiritual master in the real sense, actually. So very important point. And then Prabhupada goes on to say in the purport that he would not allow slaughterhouse or killing of the cows. He was not a foolish and a partial administrator who would arrange for the protection of one living being and allow another to be killed. Because he was a devotee of the Lord, he knew perfectly well how to conduct his administration for everyone's happiness, men, animals, plants, and all living creatures. Selfishness is either self-centered or self-extended. This is the point, Prabhus and Matajis, that Prabhupada is trying to bring. You said the king was not that I kill one on the cost of another. No, he was equally careful in living into taking care of his entire citizen. Does not means just the human being. Citizen means every single living entity who's there within your kingdom. And that's the kind of personality King Parikshit Maharaj was. He was always conscious of these activities. He knew that in order to rule the kingdom and provide sufficient resources for the citizen, three things are very important: cow protection, Brahmanic, looking after the Brahmanas, and looking after and the Varna Ashram Dharma, which really constitute all these aspects. So cow protection, the Brahmanas, and cultivation of spiritual knowledge. These are the foundational principles of running a successful kingdom, which Parikshit Maharaj was doing. So that's why Prabhupada is emphasizing on this point that selfishness is either self-centered or self. If you think, you either think of yourself, or if you think, you think of some people in your house, or at the most in your community. But a king like Parikshit Maharaj had a broader vision. He thought of every single personality in his kingdom. King Ram had a similar vision. He thought of every single person within his kingdom, that how can they be happy? What can I do to aid to their happiness so that they can live in godly consciousness? So this is some of the great qualities of a king. So perhaps somebody else can read this. Anybody would like to read this section of the purport?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read it?
Yes, go ahead, Venkat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Therefore, the king's interest is to guide all subjects back to the kingdom of God. Hence, the activities of the citizens should be so coordinated that they can, at the end, go back home, back to Godhead. Under the administration of a representative king, the kingdom is full of opulence. At that time, human beings need not eat animals. There are ample of food grains, milk, fruit, and vegetables, so that the human beings as well as the animals can eat sumptuously and to their heart's content. If all living beings are satisfied with food and shelter and obey the prescribed rules, there cannot be any disturbance between one living being and another. Emperor Pariksit was a worthy king, and therefore all were happy during his reign. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Venkat Prabhu. So, yeah, very, very nice purport again, a section of the purport of Prabhupada where he's emphasizing the activities that how under the administration of a representative like Parikshit Maharaj, everything was so nice. And at the time, human beings did not eat animals. There was ample supplies. There was enough rain, which was giving life to the vegetables. There was enough moonshine, again giving the energy to the vegetables. There was enough sunshine. And all the living beings are satisfied with the food and shelter and obey prescribed rules. You see, Krishna consciousness is such a simple thing. If we look at our Bhagavad Gita, for example, and look at the verse, that beautiful verse in the 9th chapter, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Pranashati Tadham Bhakti Uparitam Ashnami Prayatat Manaha. That Krishna is saying, this is how I'm going to make Krishna consciousness so simple for you, that if you just offer me water, patram, a leaf, pushpam, flower, patram, pushpam, phalam, fruit, toyam, and even if you offer me a little bit of water, but just do it with love. And that's where the exchange, the sweet exchange begins. That's why this whole science about offering what we eat is so important. Why do you think Krishna immediately after this verse is again emphasizing the same point? He's saying tad yasu yad ashnasi tad yata ashnasi tadasi yad ashnasi Konteya, that whatever you give, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, do that as an offering to me, O son of Kunti. That Krishna is directly telling us, he can't give us more hints than to how to make our life like a yagya. Our life is actually, if you think of it, as a yagya. But if we do that yagya for the Supreme Lord by offering everything onto Him, then that is the spiritual yagya. But if we keep doing things that what do I like, what do I want to do, or it's all about me, then unfortunately that is me and my yagya, and that will make us rot in this material world again and again. So now what I wanted to do is in the next last 5 minutes before we take any reflection or questions, I wanted to ask you or do a little exercise. I want you to share with me some of the names and examples of the compassionate personalities from Srimad Bhagavatam who portrayed a similar example like Parikshit Maharaj. So please share with me. You can either use the chat box or you can use unmute yourself and tell me the name of the personalities from Bhagavatam.
Ambrish Maharaj.
Ambrish Maharaj. What was so special about him, Mataji? Please tell us. You're on mute, Bhagavati Mataji, if you're trying to speak.
No, it was
Prabhuji,
Ambrish.
Go ahead, Bhagavati Mataji.
No, I don't want to say anything. That's fine. It's just Ambrish Maharaj. This how he thought of Krishna all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And how he thought of taking care of the guest, because he did the right thing according to breaking of his fast. He looked after Durvasha Muni. Not only that, when Durvasha Muni went running all over the 3 worlds, finally went to Vaikuntha and came back, because the calculation and the upper planets are different, a year had already gone and he was still waiting for him to come. So although he had broken the fast, but he had not eaten his prasadam to his heart's content. Only after feeding Durvasha Muni he sat down. So he also thought of the welfare of others actually. That was the life of Ambrish Maharaj, and how he used every sense of his body in the service of the Lord. Thank you for that example. Okay, what other examples, devotees? I have some
Suppose
messages.
Prahlad Maharaj,
Prahlad Maharaj, yes, absolutely.
he loved
So,
listening to Krishna Katha all the time, like Parikshit Maharaj, who was listening to Krishna Katha with rapt attention. That's what Prahlad Maharaj did.
yeah, and what did Prahlad Maharaj, again, if you look at the theme, in the verses he's glorifying to Nrsingadev, in one of those prayers, what is Prahlad Maharaj is saying? I don't care about me, Lord, my Lord, I really don't care. Please give me the suffering of this, all the world, but please help liberate all these living entities. You
Yes.
see, the theme is so common in these personalities. Ambrish Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, such a great example. Beautiful. Let's see a couple more. Draupadi, forgiving the killer of our children. Dhritarashtra. Gata Mataji, could you just explain? Prithu Maharaj, who said Prithu Maharaj? What a great example.
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni, that's right. Pardha said, Mataji said, or Prabhu said, Prithu, what a great example. Prithu Maharaj, absolutely. We had Narada Muni.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Gata Mataji, could you explain or expand on Dhritarashtra?
The fact that when his brother told him that he should renounce his material existence, and then he came to that enlightened stage at the end and quit his body through through mystic elevation, but still he renounced the material path.
Yeah, it took him a while, but he still
Took him a
heard the
while,
instruction. He was obedient to Vidura, who was able to enlighten him. And yeah, absolutely, why not? Draupadi, Dhruv Maharaj, absolutely, what a great example. He ruled the planet for 32,000 years, and he had the benediction that even though he will be engaged in these material warfare and other activities, he will never be able to forget the Lord. So absolutely, that's a great example. There's so many other personalities. Come on, let's do at least 10 to 12. Bharat Maharaj, there we go. Please tell us, Hema Mataji. Why Bharat Maharaj?
Because he gave up his kingdom so easily and went off to totally surrender to the Lord.
Yeah, nice example. He surrendered to the Lord. And not only that, if you think, again, the same theme comes back in his third life as Jat Bharat, where he was so conscious of every single living entity. And when he was having that conversation with Maharaj Rahuguna, he was trying, he gave so many examples that how one should be compassionate towards other living entities. Great example. Very nice. Rishabhadev, fantastic, Geeta Mataji. Please tell us about Rishabhadev. What was so special
The
about him?
way he was so renounced, he wouldn't even walk on the ants and things like that. He had respect for every living entity. And he also made the king to realize that what is the greatness of the spirituality, and he brought him to Krishna conscious as well. Even the king, who was so adamant, he changed his attitude and he surrendered unto Rishabhadev. That is also very great.
Yes, I think what you're referring to is Bharat Maharaj Mataji as his life as Jat Bharat, where
Jada Bharat, yes,
correct.
Jada Bharat and also Rishabhadev,
Yeah,
yes.
Rishabhadev, more for, to be honest, because he was such a realized soul that he not only worked for him, but he even gave Krishna consciousness to his, how many? 100 sons, right?
Hundreds, yes.
And all of them, they achieved Krishna consciousness because of those potent instructions. Great example. Thank you. Arjun, absolutely. But let's tell me, where does he come in Mahabharata though, Venkat Prabhu? In Bhagavatam? Well, he does, because he's coming in the lineage of Parikshit Maharaj, so there's some connection, right?
Yeah, but Hare Krishna, I think he comes in the first canto somewhere where when he comes back from Dwarak, he couldn't find Krishna, right? I mean, when Krishna left.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prabhuji. Uddhava, beautiful example. Very nice. How was Uddhava glorious? He was glorious because He made the glories of Gopi even more glorious after coming, meeting them, hearing from them, and sharing those stories with other devotees and being a messenger. Yes, absolutely. Let's have a couple more. There is so many in Bhagavatam.
Prabhuji, can we say Bali Raja?
Bali Maharaj. Yes, absolutely. What a great example. Beautiful example. He gave up everything, even though his so-called spiritual master is saying, be careful. That's how material energy works. Be careful. Don't do it. Don't surrender yet. Bali Maharaj was into it. He 100% did it. Let's do 3 more devotees. You got to do 15 today.
Prabhuji, Kunti Maharani.
Yes. What about Kunti Maharani?
She was so grateful to Krishna. She was in so much, about her bhakti, Prabhuji, because she said she's happy to accept the miseries as long as she's able to remember him. So
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Then Prabhuji, can we say Bhishma Pitama?
Yes, you can. He was a great example. Bhishma. There is Bhishma Stuti, the prayers of Bhishma Pitama offering to Krishna and telling you this is the teachings.
Who said at the end, he said that I've got a daughter and Mati, my Mati should get married to you. So I can always think of you.
So nice, Urmila Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. He, even while he was leaving, he gave the instruction to Yudhishthira Maharaj, think of other benefits, rule in a way which brings joy to other people's life in your kingdom and helps them remember Krishna. He wanted everybody to remember Krishna. You see, all of them have this common theme. Look, I mean, I was just thinking about this, and that's why I thought spontaneously as I was preparing the session, why not meditate on these personalities and look at their life so much dedicated for just giving. Let's have a few more examples. We'll do it for 2 more minutes. In 2 minutes, if you can share some more examples, that would be great.
Sudama.
Sudama and okay, there is Vidura, there is Sudama, absolutely. Vidura, great example. Sudama, and there was one more which just came. Ranti Dev, absolutely, well done. Ranti Dev. Tell us a little bit about Ranti Dev. Why was he famous? What did he do?
He gave his
Vritasura.
last he gave his last bit of food and drink to other people, and he sacrificed his hunger.
Absolutely.
Ranti Dev.
Absolutely. Ranti Dev, and beautiful example, Hema Mataji, Vritasura, absolutely spot on. Another one which comes to my mind is King, what was his name? Khatwanga. You know, he gave his life in fighting for the demigods, and yet he perfected his life. You know, that was the beauty actually. That's so nice. And then there's one more. Who was that king who gave his body so that it can be used as an instrument? What was the personality's name?
Is it probably that Rishi, the teacher Rishi, who gave
Yeah,
it
Datiti,
Datiti,
right?
The
Yeah.
teacher.
He gave it to Indra, isn't it, to make some weapon?
King Khatwanga. And okay, 20 is good for today. Dadichi. That was a nice meditation, devotees. Thanks for joining. And now I have a couple more slides for you just to remind you of something. Now that, as I said in the beginning, I don't know why I get these verses, but it's not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence that we are doing Chat Plus. Please take it from me, because you are the 47 special devotees who have decided to at least get closer to this transcendental vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam and do good to others. If that is the message, you think I'm not making it up, I'm not faking it up, and you can see this same message coming in the line of Parampara so distinctively, so clearly, and so predominantly, then wholeheartedly embrace it and give it to others. So tomorrow we are going to make a start. It's the first presentation that will be me doing at 7:15 p.m. for 45 minutes, presenting it to the audience. Any of your friends who you had decided to invite, we are waiting for the flyer. I'm sorry it got a bit delayed. There were so many things we were working through, but I'm going to share a link anyway so that we don't have to worry. If the flyer comes by 9, I will send the flyer. So you still have time to circulate it tonight or tomorrow morning. If not, I will send the link out before I go to bed tonight or first thing in the morning, because Vrindavan Prabhu is trying to help me with the flyer because he has the template. So we will have that. And that way the link is consistent for all the sessions, and you can have it. So please reach out to your friends. If you don't have a list, make the list and help Srila Prabhupada. He said, kindly help me. This was a very solid instruction given to his spiritual master in the very beautiful place called Ulta Danga Road in Calcutta. And yeah, so thank you so much for your attention and for taking part in that exercise. If anybody has any comments or any questions, then feel free to share with me. Yesterday, we had our mentee meeting. Not yesterday, day before. And there Karthik Chand Prabhu was speaking. He was saying, we were talking about the different 9 processes of bhakti, and how he a point came about the life of gopis, and he made a very interesting contrast between book distribution and about the gopis mood. Is they're very similar activities actually, because the gopis are always thinking, how can I invite others in the service of Krishna, and someone who's trying to do the best to the others or trying to share Krishna consciousness, give out Prabhupada books and prasadam, he's also thinking in a similar mood, how can I benefit others. So take it from the Shastra, take it from Acharyas, take it from great Karthik Chand Prabhu. And actually, one of the Prabhupada disciples, Rameshwar Prabhu, I believe, he wrote to Prabhupada to clarify this because somebody told him. And he wasn't convinced until Prabhupada said that is a correct understanding. So it is directly coming from our Pujya Acharya, Srila Prabhupada himself, that it is the ultimate and in one of the best services actually we can be engaged in. And you can feel it for yourself when you try to make a little endeavor in this part actually, you know. Thank you, Namrita Mataji, for your encouragement. I'm glad you felt that this verse was beautifully explained. I tried my best. Any other comments or questions? Yes, the presentations are recorded. Jyoti Mataji, who's dedicatedly doing this service for such a long time, not only records it, she converts the file onto the YouTube and then she shares it for the benefit of everyone. Another good example to follow in the lines of our Acharya. She's trying to follow.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
My question was about the presentation that starts tomorrow. Are
Yes.
those recorded? Because the people I've contacted, they either can't make the times that the presentation are taking place, or they've got pre-engagements. So I said, I'm going to ask if they're going to be recorded, they can then view it whenever they can have time.
Absolutely, Mataji. And by all means, what you can also do is make a note of the times when they can do it. And if you find there is a time which works for them, maybe few of them together, and reach out to me. I will try to see if we can arrange a presentation exclusively for your contacts. I'm opening this for everyone actually.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing it up.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I mean, this is nice when you hear these pastimes, when you go to these places, it invokes all those sentiments. That's why going to Dham and these places is so special actually. So yeah, I invite everybody, if anybody wishes to join us for the retreat, which is about to launch sometime this week, definitely before the end of this week, we will be going to Calcutta, Mayapur, and then to Jagannath Puri, and it'll be in the half term of the school holidays in February next year. and we will have the best of the best association, because Madhavananda Prabhu, who is a disciple of Gaur Govind Maharaj, living for so many years in Dham, has confirmed that he will be able to give us his association in Jagannath Puri. So it's going to be super exciting.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanava Pranam, Shavish Prabhupada.
Haribol Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you again for bringing your consciousness firmly to Kirtanam, as it were, and it's extremely noble of you with the amount of dedication you have to distribution of Bhagavatam. It's really all glories to you and your team for that. It really is very noble. I would just like to point out, though, that Prabhupada has said that any service rendered to Krishna, be it cleaning toilets or whether it's book distribution, is equal in the eyes of Krishna. It's not that book distribution is the paramount one, because this question was also asked of him by a disciple. And he said, no, each service is equally important. So yes, it's in the context of the comment you made earlier about Prabhupada saying, he said also at times that any service rendered is equally important. It's not that book distribution is the only important one. So I think it's important to recognize that anyone who might not be able to do book distribution does not mean to say that their service is lesser in the eyes of Krishna or Prabhupada. But it is extremely important. It's very much up there, but it's not that those that can't distribute are doing lesser service to Krishna. I think it's just important to make sure we emphasize that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Prabhu. Again, I think it also depends on if you carefully observe the moods of our acharyas. So all services are absolutely, they're all very, very important in the lines of our acharyas. However, this is one service which Krishna himself is establishing it to be very in the sense of special, because you get special attention here in this service of Krishna, because when you're trying to work for him to spread his knowledge, be it Harinam, be it Prasadam distribution, or trying to distribute his glories in the form of his books, there is no doubt about it. It is emphasized. On the other note, when I talk about Sankirtan as such, I don't necessarily mean to say that book distribution in itself is the service, but anything in relation to that, for example, packing cookies, packing the books, even trying to drive devotees around when they're going out on book distribution, inviting them for prasadam, anything related to the expansion of the Sankirtan movement is as glorious as somebody distributing the books on in the front, actually. Because it is a saying, Prabhupada, I think, quoted that in an army, when you're going, when you're out fighting, you can't fight unless you've been fed, right? So you have to equally keep the person who's feeding the army and those who are in the front line. So the same principle is there, that the deity worship, all these services are extremely crucial for our movement. But our acharyas, it is very individual as at the same time. And as the more you keep noticing, reading about the acharyas, the life of Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada, you will see that there is a very intrinsic link up in relation to the preaching. Why, and that's the reason why Prabhupada was so in for, or expanding the Sankirtan movement. But yes, point taken, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. I think it is time now, devotees. It's 8:44. Unless anybody has a quick comment or a reflection. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and I hope I thank you all for trying to give your attention to Srimad Bhagavatam, and at the same time trying to invite others to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, or even hear the glories of the Bhagavatam, and allowing them an opportunity to invite Bhagavatam in their home through the program called Suswagatam Bhagavatam, where we go into their house and do kirtan and all these activities. So I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpataru vesha kripa sindhu vevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji. Thank
Prabhuji.
you.